In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove line segments from objects. So you'll first have to convert these objects to paths, and then you can delete the section between the nodes, and I'll show you how to make fill patterns up to these break lines and not within the valleys. If we want to make an axisymmetric line, we need to draw a center line passing through this end of the object. And to do that, we'll just use the Bezier. Draw it from the bottom of the object to the top of the object, right click to complete it, and then change the fill type to a center line. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to convert these objects. This is a rectangle. We're going to convert that to a set of shapes. So to do that, or to a path. So you say object to path, Shift Control C, and nothing really changes except for the fact that now there's going to be nodes. So if we were to look at these, well, so if you look at a rectangle, there are nodes, but there's one that's a square and then two circular, well, a circle and two square nodes. So now that we've created this to a path, they're all circle nodes. And what you can do is you can select this line so that both nodes are selected, and you can actually delete the segment between the nodes. So that removes the line, and you can do that for all these, well, for both of these remaining ones. Okay, and now the line is going to be visible. So that's the first thing, and then also these objects actually continue on, so they're cut here. So we're not going to apply a line of symmetry. We're actually going to show a break line, and that's just going to be a zigzagging dotted line. So to do that, we'll just use the Bezier curve, and we're just going to draw. We want to draw angles, so I'm going to draw along the grid lines here at low angles, about 30 degrees. So what we're going to do is we want this pattern to fill to the top of these peaks, but not to go into these valleys. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually break up this whole path so that it's peaks and valleys. And to do that, we'll just draw a line over this line here at the top of that object, and we can trim with this line. We can trim the shape that's behind it. So shift colors the stroke, and so you can tell that this orange line is actually in front of the black line. To move it around, you can use the page down and page up keys, or you can use the end and the home keys. So those are also up here in these icons. So we want the object that we're trimming with to be in the front, and the object that's trimmed in the back. And you select both objects and say Control Alt and then the question mark key, this / and what happens is the trimming object is deleted, and the object to be trimmed remains in place but is trimmed. So we have these peaks and these valleys, and we're actually missing this other line, but we can add that in just by simply creating a line. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to fill these with the same pattern that we have down here, and it should match up. So we'll say Control Shift F, fill the pattern, and we want to use columns, and I believe they're tight. So we also want to remove this this upper line, and that's the same method as before. Use this. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Looks like the pattern is matching up. If the pattern doesn't match up, you can always drag these nodes on this object. You can drag the node, and if you hold Control and Alt and drag the node will be dragged along the line. It'll remain collinear to the original line. And so if you don't select that, so if you just select this one node, it won't drag that peak around with it. So this is useful if you need the pattern to extend a little bit longer if there's a gap. So if there were a gap like this, you could extend the pattern by dragging this single node, right? So you want to do that for all the peaks and then all the valleys. What we'll do is, since we want a white background, I'm just going to fill it with white. So I'll fill it with a solid. You actually don't even need to hit that. You can just click on the hatch down there, or the swatch. So same thing with this, and you can do multiple objects at the same time. So filling both these with the same pattern. Okay, so now if our background were to be white, so that was the first rectangle over here. Then that pattern looks correct. So in this case, it looks like there's a little bit of the large objects pattern showing behind these valleys. So I'm just going to drag up the pattern with Control Alt and then dragging it up. Same thing with this. Okay, so that looks good. And then you can do the same thing down here. Alright, so I've drawn the other break in this material, and I filled in the triangles. So what I did here was I just drew two vertical lines as the trimming lines and made these just valleys and filled each of them. So now, to help show that these are actually breaks, we'll select all of the breaks, and we'll change the stroke style to just a dotted line, and that makes it more clear that the objects are broken. So that covers everything in terms of the labeling, like of the figure, the symbolic labeling, and then next we'll add text and arrows.